All right, Tanish, welcome. It's such a pleasure to have you here. Go ahead and let us know how you felt about preparing for this year's spelling bee. I know it was a tough one being online and kind of what you thought about it.
I mean, I prepared essentially the same way I would prepare for an in-person spelling, even though it was online. So my preparation strategy didn't change too much from previous years. But one really important thing was like making sure I had a good environment to compete in when I'm online, because I was really lucky and I got to choose my environment. So I always tried to compete in the same place I studied because I think kind of having that visual component of being in the same place I was learning the words really helps because when you're spelling them, it's almost like you're just studying, so it takes some of the pressure off too.
That's interesting. Now, if you could go back and like choose to do this kind of online competition, would you prefer that over in person, or would you have rather have done an in person competition?
I think I'd rather have done an in-person competition still, mainly because it's like it's more fun. I think it's a different experience totally because I mean you get to meet all the other spellers and get to make friends. You get to, and even though you're more nervous for sure, I think it feels higher stakes. So maybe that can contribute to maybe like, I don't know if this is true, but I think you could maybe do better even because your brain kind of kicks into like, no, I need to get this word right, you know,
Right,
and
right.
mentally reach for a rule that you thought you had forgotten, I think brought on by like the pressure.
That makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And I think that, anyone who's ever stood on a stage probably feels that too when those lights hit you and suddenly it's showtime, as opposed to maybe when you're behind a computer screen, it doesn't feel real. Yeah,
Yeah.
that totally makes sense. I mean, you kind of answered my next question for you, which was just going to be, what were the pros and cons of doing the be in person? So we'll jump to that moment that you won. And what I'll actually do here is I'm going to cut in a video of you winning.
Cadre. Cadre. Cadre.
Congratulations. Fantastic job, everybody.
And tell me about how that felt for the Arizona Spelling Bee, I should say, is what we're talking about here. So how did that feel the moment you got that word right? You heard our pronouncer say correct. What went through your mind?
I mean, I was just like I was overwhelmed. I was super excited. I mean, because me and the second place speller had been going back and forth for a few rounds, and I was like ready for it to be over because every new round where I have to spell a word against just one person, it gets higher and higher stakes. And I really wasn't like thinking that I'm going to win or the other speller is going to win. I was just trying to focus on the words. And when they were like, "You're correct," it took me a second. I was like, "Wow."
Took you a second to realize you had actually done it.
Yeah.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, you had a look of relief on your face on camera, and everyone else will see that here too when I play that video. So you did a lot of TV interviews. I know there's a lot of folks who asked to reach out through us, and I don't know if anyone reached out to you directly or your parents directly, but tell me what that was like. I mean, how did you prepare mentally for interviews? Have you done interviews before? Was this your first time going through that?
So I have done some interviews before for the spelling bee or different stuff, but nothing huge or major going on any big news thing. So this was definitely a new experience for me. And I kind of prepared by, first of all, I tried to anticipate their questions or think through what I wanted to say so I didn't have to totally like freestyle it. And then tried to convince myself I'm just having a conversation with the person as opposed to being interviewed for something that dozens or hundreds of people or thousands of people will see. Um, and I think it was different too because the interviews were all online instead of having to go in person. So that kind of helped, being at home. But yeah, I just tried to prepare for it by thinking about what I was going to say and trying to treat it like it was just a conversation.
Awesome, man. You're a very well-spoken guy too. I mean, even talking to you now, I mean, you handle this kind of stuff very well. And the conversations are the more fun thing anyway. People like conversations.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that so you're an eighth grader, so you're going on to high school, so you won't be able to compete in the Arizona Bee next year. So now that there's no additional competition up against you, what advice would you give to young spellers who are, going to give this a go?
I definitely say it's not too early to start because I think the third place speller, she was only in like fourth or fifth grade or something. She was really, really, and
Yeah.
there's totally going to win at some point, and I think if you can read, you can compete in a spelling bee. It's as simple as that. And maybe if you know which types of words you struggle with or specific language you struggle with, and you can work on those words. But just to get started, I think the most important thing is to read, having a really good foundation from reading and reading all kinds of stuff. I mean, you should be reading books above your reading level. Look up words that you don't know. Don't stick to the stuff that you think you like. Read new books. I mean, read classics, especially reading the news. A lot of publications will have pretty complicated words in the news, and it's more likely, I think, that a word that's being used a lot in the news, even if it's more complicated, it's more likely to be used in a spelling bee because they want words that are relevant and questions. So I think, yeah, reading, use a thesaurus when you do your school assignments, use bigger words, and don't be afraid to reach out to teachers or administrators or anybody for help, because I've always found that people are always really, really ready to help if you just ask them for help. And yeah, that's what I would tell them. And and the final thing is probably all you need is, like, if you work hard, I really don't think it's out of reach for anybody. It's a lot easier or closer than people might think.
That's awesome, man. That's great advice. And so what I hear you saying is a lot of it is very practical. So you didn't just sit down and memorize words all the time. It was, you were learning words in books, you were learning words, doing assignments and trying to use a better, more descriptive word. And so it's through your natural life that you were picking up on extra words too.
Totally. Yeah.
That's great. And so then you talked about, so Isha is the name of the young lady who got third place, who, as you mentioned, she's very young. So what if someone was a seventh grader and now this is the first time they're like, you know what, I want to start studying. Do you believe a person could within a year study to get ready to be a champion in the Arizona Spelling Bee?
I definitely think they could be. I mean, it's just your preparation strategy is going to be totally different from if you were in fourth grade or third grade. So it's going to involve a lot less reading and a lot more hardcore memorizing the words, memorizing roots and rules and things like that. But I think first of all, you should make sure that your school does put on a spelling bee that lines up with the script spelling bee. That way, you can advance to the Arizona spelling bee if you work hard. So make sure that happens, and then I would tell them to really sit down, start memorizing the major word list that they'll give you, and then learn a lot of rules and Greek and Latin and French roots. So I think it's totally doable.
Awesome, man. That's great to hear. Yeah, I think that's always nice for everyone to know. It's great to start early, but if people don't start early sometimes, and this happens later in life as well, that people decide that, oh, I'm too old to do that now, or I'm too old to go after a dream. So that's really nice to hear that, a seventh grader could decide, hey, you know what, I'm taking a shot at this for eighth grade year and gonna knock it out and be the next Tanish. So that's very cool. So how about for you then? So now you're moving on to high school. What are your dreams, man? What are your goals? What are you going to do next?
For high school, I mean, I really want to try like new things, take classes I'm interested in, work with clubs and organizations I'm passionate about, even though I can't compete with script spelling moving forward, I still want to do, academic competitions and things that interest me. And that's for high school. But then for the long term, I'm not entirely sure what I want to do as like a job or a career. I'm interested in a lot of stuff. I really like law and physics, and psychology, and it's kind of all over the place. So I'm just gonna see where high school takes me, and then I'm not sure yet, but I'll figure it out.
Nice. I'm sure you will. And, and that's as it should be, right? I think, some people might know early what they want to do, but a lot of people I know, it took them even in college. They suddenly said, oh gosh, no, I've learned a new thing. So it's great that you experience so much of life, because you do. Talk to me about the bicycle thing you won, the down in Tucson, or completed, I should say, not won.
Yeah, a while back, before the pandemic, I did the Tour de Tucson, which was a 50-mile bike ride here with some of my friends and my parents, and that was really, really fun because I had to train for it, because I knew how to ride a bike, but I was by no means an endurance biker, or I didn't know how to bike for long distance or anything like that. And so learning and training and working for that, I would argue that it's very similar to the spelling bee in the way you kind of, have this systematically, change your schedule to make time for these kinds of things. Because before that, if somebody had asked me, do you have time to do 60 miles of biking a week, I would have said no. But you have to find that time, and when you make time for that, you kind of, once you prioritize it, I think anything is doable.
So it sounds like you're saying, I mean, if you want to go after this kind of stuff, you need to be intentional about it. You need to make time on purpose. You need to prepare on purpose.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you just watch like spelling bee movies and stuff like that, you might get the impression that it's just going to fall into your lap. Somebody's going to be like, hey, why don't you just compete? And you're just going to magically win. And then, oh no, you win the next one. And then you finally get intentional at the state level. You finally get intentional at the national level. I think you should be intentional from the start, because it's unlikely that someone will just shove you into a spelling bee and you'll win. You know, you have to choose to do it, and you have to choose to study.
Yeah. And the luck involved too, right? You don't always know what word's going to come your way. So maybe you get lucky at your classroom level, but you decided not to, study, and you got to the school level and learned real quick. You should have. That makes a ton of sense. So in just a moment, I'm going to have the teachers go up against you here in a little spelling competition. And then we're going to have you do a challenge word. So get ready for that. Everyone stay tuned. All right, Tanish, it's time to spell some words. Your first word is going to be happiness.
Happiness. Could I have a definition?
Certainly. The definition is the state of being happy.
Wow. Happiness. 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 Happiness.
That is correct.
Michelle, I need you to spell happiness.
Oh. Is there two P's? HAPPINESS?
Perfect. All right.
All right. Tanish, your second word is education.
Education. EDUCATION. Education.
That is correct. All right. We're 2 for 2.
All right. KAREEM, I need you to spell education.
Education. EDUCATION. Education.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. And
Third word is cartographer.
Cartographer. Is this like a person who makes a map?
Yep. This is a person who draws or produces maps.
Okay. Cartographer. CARTOGRAPHER. Cartographer.
That was fantastic.
then Sarah, I need you to spell cartographer.
Okay, Matt. Is it a C? I'm gonna say CARTOGRAPHER. Cartographer.
I think that was right.
Well, you know what we're gonna say is. Okay.
All right. 3 for 3. Here's our fourth word. Now, this one I chose because in 4th grade, this was the word I won my classroom spelling bee on. I won no other spelling bees after that, but I was able to spell the word idiosyncrasy.
Idiosyncrasy. Could I have the definition?
You certainly can. It's a mode of behavior or way of thought peculiar to an individual.
Idiosyncrasy. IDIOSYNCRASY. Idiosyncrasy.
Nailed it, man. 4 out of 4. That's perfect.
All right. And then Jonathan, I need you to spell idiosyncrasy.
Oh my goodness.
Getting there. They're getting there now.
All right. Idiosyncrasy. IDIOSYNCOSY.
That was super close. Was not quite there, but it was super
Oh.
close. Yeah. So you'll get the end of the video. Yeah.
Man,
Okay.
This happens when you're fourth. You're lucky you were fourth.
I know.
But now we're going to do the Tanish challenge word, which just before we started this, you let me know. And it's a wild word, and I'm super excited to see other people try to spell it. Why don't you go ahead and tell us what is your challenge word?
Okay, so my challenge word is pneumono-ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis, and it's a lung disease you get from inhaling ash.
That's fantastic. And go ahead and spell that for us.
Okay. Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis. PNEUMONIOCONIOSIS.
That is absolutely stellar, man. You're something else.
This is from Tanish Doshi, who's the Arizona champion last year.
Oh, gosh.
This is the word he can spell confidently that no one else can spell.
Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
We'll do it one more time.
What was it?
Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
You gotta say it.
Numinal.
The,
You're gonna have to say
I can't. I've tried.
the computer says it too weird.
Yeah.
It's Pneumono ultramicroscopic. Actually, I can slow her down.
Or it's probably pneumano, like pneumonic.
Like PN.
Yeah.
Pneumano ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
There are a lot of letters in that
So
one.
many.
And I listened to him spell this like off the top of his head. It was bizarre.
Wow.
It's
Isn't
fantastic.
that what really good spellers do? They write it in their hand.
Yeah.
But the problem is, I would need to know how to.
Pneumano.
Is it a P? I think it's P and like pneumonia.
Yeah, maybe like pneumonia. So
Or is it
O.
M-I?
No, it's definitely P-N-E.
Why should it not be a P?
Yeah, no, I agree.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's like pneumatic.
And M-O.
Do you think it's M-O, not M-I?
Oh, new. Say it again. Computer.
Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
Okay, here's the deal. I got scopic. You guys can
I
scopic.
got scopic.
Scopic. You guys can spell the rest.
All right, we're
Ladies and gentlemen, Tanish Doshi, the 2021 Arizona Spelling Bee champion. Man, it was an honor having you represent our state going to nationals. I hope you had a really good time. And I'm sure we're going to hear about you in the news at some point. I have a feeling this is not the last that Tanish is going to make a name for himself. So thanks again, brother. Appreciate you being on here.
starting.
All right, ready?
PN. Are we sure? PN.
Yes.
No, we're not. We're wrong already. We're already wrong.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No, you were right. You were right. Yeah. PN.
So
P-N-E-U-M.
O.
O.
Alright, pneumano.
Pneumano, yeah.
So N.
And
Pneumano. O.
Pneumano.
Micro. Then we do micro.
Can
After
you
pneumano.
play it again?
Yeah, play it again.
Pneumono ultramicroscopic.
Oh,
So
ultra.
ultra.
U-L-T-R-A. Ultra.
again.
All right. Well, if I just keep playing it, of course you'll get it.
So after ultra,
We
it's
gotta remember the word.
R-O. Scopic. S-C-O-P-I. Look at. I
And
know.
then scoliosis, right?
No,
Isn't that
it's
the name?
volcano.
Volcano.
Volcano was in
scoli-
there.
Okay, so
Volcano.
V-O-L-C-A-N-O. Then is it scoliosis?
Let's play it again.
Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
Is it silico like
S-I-L-I-C-O.
yeah?
Okay.
Like silicon.
Yeah.
So silico S-I-L-I-C-O.
O.
Silico.
Volcano.
Volcano.
V-O-L-C-A-N-O.
What was
I
after
forget
volcano?
this part every time.
One more play.
Pneumono ultramicroscopic silicovolcanoconiosis.
Oh.
Scoliosis.
I got the osis.
C-O-N-I-O-S-I-S.
I'm going to tell you what, you wouldn't have won in the spelling bee, but that was fantastic.